Steven Spielberg. His signature is the revelation close-up. The camera locks onto a face as comprehension blooms, turning a private reaction into the audience's roadmap. Spielberg lets the moment unfurl instead of cutting to the cause. A held take, a barely perceptible push-in, and a low eyeline that subtly enlarges whatever the character sees. In Jaws, Brody's beach stare tightens before the water erupts. In Close Encounters of the Third Kind, suburban light washes over parents and kids long before we earn the reverse. In Jurassic Park, Grant registers wonder first, and only then do we meet the dinosaurs. The craft is deceptively simple. Soft, motivated sources, windows, lamps, or sky, shape the face. Shallow focus clears away noise. The dolly creeps instead of lunging. Spielberg trusts duration, an extra beat where most directors would cut, so we experience discovery in real time. The shot isn't merely a reaction insert, it's narrative cause and effect inverted. Emotion first, spectacle second. That inversion is why it works. Our point of view fuses with the characters, and when the reveal finally comes, it lands with the weight of what we've already felt. It's cinematic empathy engineered at the lens, quiet, patient, and devastatingly effective. Akira Kurosawa. Kurosawa's signature is the dynamic composition layered with movement, not just of actors, but of nature itself. He used weather as an emotional amplifier. Rain for despair, wind for chaos, snow for silence. In Seven Samurai, the final battle rages in sheets of rain, mud kicking up under galloping horses. In Rashomon, the forest isn't static. Wind stirs the leaves, sunlight flickers, the air feels alive. His frames are often arranged with three planes of action: foreground, middle ground, and deep background, all in motion. He favored long lenses to compress space, making movement feel more urgent. He also used axial cuts, a technique of cutting straight in without changing angle, to give the illusion of rapid advancement. His wipe transitions, later adopted by Star Wars, became a stylistic signature. Kurosawa staged his actors in diagonals and used blocking-like choreography, each movement revealing hierarchy or tension. The camera was rarely still, and it panned, tracked, and tilted to follow momentum, syncing with the rhythm of the scene. Every frame breathes with energy, even in stillness, because the world within it is never lifeless. Kurosawa didn't just show stories, he let the environment itself become a character, shaping mood and meaning. Quentin Tarantino. Call it the low-slung POV, the camera parked inside a container, most famously a car trunk, staring up at faces that crowd the frame. Tarantino turns that angle into a stage. We're the object being inspected, the loot being checked, the captive hearing the plan. It debuts in Reservoir Dogs, becomes iconography in Pulp Fiction, and echoes through Jackie Brown, Kill Bill, and even coffin-tight perspectives that weaponize claustrophobia. Technically, the setup is spare and stylized. A wide-angle lens in tight quarters, the horizon erased, faces leaning into negative space. Lighting does the heavy lifting, hard top or side light carves cheekbones, while the dark mouth of the trunk frames the tableau. Crucially, the camera rarely budges. Tarantino lets dialogue and posture do the choreography. Because his scenes run on rhythm, riffs, pauses, punchlines, the immobile vantage point becomes a pressure cooker, power flips, jokes land, threats curdle, all without relief from cutting. The shot isn't a gimmick, it's authorship, a single viewpoint with attitude, cocky, conspiratorial, a little cruel, that compresses tone, character, and situation into one unmistakable angle. Francis Ford. Coppola. Coppola's defining shot is the shadowed close-up, faces half hidden in darkness, lit to reveal only what the story allows. In The Godfather, Marlon Brando's Don Corleone is introduced with his eyes obscured, the dim light signaling mystery, authority, and danger. Gordon Willis's cinematography, under Coppola's direction, embraced underexposure, letting blackness dominate the frame. Coppola used this not only for mood, but for hierarchy, the powerful control. The light, the powerless, are exposed. In Apocalypse Now, Martin Sheen's Willard emerges from shadow in his Saigon hotel room, sweat glistening, the darkness swallowing him again, as if the jungle's chaos has already claimed him. Technically, Coppola favors deep, deliberate compositions, slow push-ins during moments of revelation, wide lenses for family meetings, and static frames during moments of dread. He often builds tension with minimal movement, letting the audience lean into the silence. The interplay of light and darkness becomes thematic. Loyalty and betrayal, morality and corruption, all living in the same frame. Coppola's shadowed close-ups aren't just about style. They are visual storytelling, revealing that in his worlds the most important truths live in the half-light. Stanley Kubrick. Kubrick's visual signature is the axial corridor, one-point perspective driven to exacting symmetry so the set itself becomes a mechanism. Floors, walls, and fixtures converge on a vanishing point, and the camera commits to that axis, advancing, receding, or hovering with unnerving steadiness. In The Shining, Steadicam passes keep the Overlook's hallways brutally centered. In 2001, A Space Odyssey, spacecraft interiors click into pristine grids. In A Clockwork Orange, institutional passages harden into funnels of control. In Full Metal Jacket, the squad bay reads like a ruler-straight parade ground under fluorescence. The method is architectural as much as photographic. Production design is nudged for alignment. Practical lights are placed symmetrically, and ultra-wide primes at deep stops hold every plane in crisp order. Movement is measured, a glide that lengthens space or a retreat that makes rooms feel like traps. Because the frame is so balanced, any asymmetry, a figure breaking center, a prop crossing the line, reads as an event. The effect isn't just aesthetic rigor, it's theme rendered as geometry. Systems dominate, people are arranged. Fate runs along the center line. Kubrick builds the cage, then makes us walk it. James Cameron's signature is the immersive tracking shot through complex, often dangerous environments, blending practical effects and cutting-edge technology. In Aliens, the camera snakes through claustrophobic corridors with marines, steam, and sparks filling the air. In Titanic, it glides from lavish ballrooms to flooding lower decks in one unbroken flow. Avatar takes it further out. Long, swooping passes through bioluminescent forests or chaotic aerial battles. Often blending live action with seamless CGI, Cameron designs these shots for clarity and chaos. The camera's path guides the eye through dense action, ensuring the audience always understands spatial relationships. He often uses Steadicams or cranes married to visual effects pre-visualization, so physical and digital elements align perfectly. Lighting is motivated and immersive, flickering from practicals in Aliens, warm lamplight on Titanic's decks, glowing flora in Pandora. These tracking shots aren't just a spectacle, they're experiential, making the audience feel inside the environment. Cameron uses movement to maintain tension, pacing, and scale. From the intimate, a couple at a railing, to the massive, a ship breaking apart, all within the same fluid shot. Charlie Chaplin. Chaplin's trademark shot is the extended medium wide that lets physical comedy play out without cuts. In City Lights in Modern Times, the tramp navigates machinery, sidewalks, and social situations in uninterrupted takes, the camera holding steady as the gag builds. By avoiding close-ups and rapid edits, Chaplin preserves the rhythm of performance. Every stumble, double take, and gesture reads in real time. His framing is simple but precise, often using deep space so background action can contribute to the joke. In The Great Dictator, he applies the same visual language to satire. The globe dance is staged in a single elegant frame, the comedy emerging from choreography and timing rather than camera trickery. Technically, Chaplin's static shots mask meticulous planning, props placed for interaction, sets built to accommodate physical stunts. Lighting is bright and even, ensuring clarity of movement. This approach isn't about showing off cinematography, it's about letting performance and story breathe. Chaplin's medium wides turn the frame into a stage and the audience into a front row crowd, watching human behavior distilled into humor, pathos, and universal language. Orson Welles. Welles's signature is the deep focus wide shot. Every plane, from extreme foreground to distant background, rendered sharp and active. Citizen Kane revolutionized the technique with Greg Toland's cinematography, allowing compositions where a child plays in the snow outside while adults argue in the foreground. All equally clear. Welles used low camera angles, sometimes cutting into floors to sink the tripod, making ceilings visible and spaces monumental. In The Magnificent Ambersons, long takes track characters through richly layered sets, blocking designed so action shifts between planes without a cut. Lighting is high contrast, sculpting depth with practical sources like lamps or windows placed to anchor the space. Welles often moved the camera in sync with actors, gliding through the environment while maintaining sharpness across distances. The deep focus shot isn't just technical bravado, it's narrative density. Background action can foreshadow events, reveal subtext, or counterpoint the foreground drama. Welles gave the audience the freedom and the responsibility to choose where to look, trusting them to find meaning in the totality of the frame. It's a style that demands attention and rewards it with layered, three-dimensional storytelling.